Are you sabotaging your own success? Are you sabotaging your own success? I want you to sit with that for just a moment and just think about it. You see, today it's Sunday. It's the second day in a new year. And I'm sure you, just like I, have all these aspirations and dreams and targets you set for this entire year. This morning, as I woke up at 4 when my son was crying and he was hungry, something interesting occurred to me as I was reflecting over this whole experience of seeing him this morning. So when he gets up, he is extremely hungry. As you might know, when you have kids, they're extremely hungry and they just want to eat. And it just has to be right there. It just has to be now. And there's like literally, it can only go too slow. But so what happened was that as my girlfriend sat down with him and I was, under the impression that he was going to eat, he started screaming and crying and becoming more and more restless. And I was like, what's happening? Like, why is he not eating? And then I walked over and I noticed that as he was lying there, he had put his hand in front of his own face, in front of his own mouth, so he couldn't actually eat. So here we have this little new baby who is so adamant on feeding and getting food, and yet he, by whatever reason, decides to put his hand in front of his face. Now, why do I bring that up? Because that sounds pretty, it could sound a little strange. But the reason I'm bringing it up and the lesson of all of this and is why is it that we often at times we have a dream, or we have a target that we've set in the future, and yet we continue to sabotage it, right? Like in my son's case, it was him doing something super innocent and very, very simple as putting his own hand in front of his face so he could not eat. But how many times have you had a dream of something and then there's this little voice inside of your mind that says, well, I can't do this, or you listen to advice for the wrong people that tell you, oh, that's going to be too hard. And then little by little, you just give up and you start thinking, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I am not the person that can do this. Maybe it's not for me to actually live out these dreams, right? Like how many times in your life up until today have you had moments in your life where there's something you really wanted in life and yet you have not achieved it because either you or external, like internal dialogue or then external conversation has talked you out of doing it because you didn't believe in yourself. And because you didn't believe in it, you started having this dialogue that sabotaged everything in life. So a lot of the men that I, including myself when I went through divorce, one of the things that I was extremely good at was to sabotage my relationship, right? So what I mean with that is just like my son this morning, he put his hand up and couldn't eat. I was extremely good at pushing people away, especially in intimate love relationships. I would always find a reason to find a fault with the woman I was with. So I was constantly sabotaging any relationship I was in because, I had this idea, I had this ideal of a woman, right? I had this vision and this thought of how a woman should be or could be in terms of how she looked, how she behaved, how she treated me sexually, and all of that, right? So I had these like blinders on, and I never ever considered the possibility that there's other options in a woman. So because for so many years I had these blinders on, every time I was in an intimate relationship with a woman, I would always sabotage it. Just like my son this morning, he put his hand up and he couldn't eat, which is the simplest thing. He could just, take his hand away and he could feed. I did the exact same. Instead of focusing on where my intention could be, which was the relationship, and in this case, it was my marriage, I started thinking, well, maybe, what if this woman over here, she's actually more interesting? Like, what if this woman over here actually can give me more of what I want? Right? So instead of being focused on what I actually had and being grateful for that, I started creating problems in my own marriage. And little by little, what happened was that as the marriage started becoming more and more challenging, the gap between myself and my wife just grew. And what I did was, and you might be able to relate to this as a man, I started spending a lot more time at work to focus on something different than how shitty the relationship was, how disconnected I felt from her, how alone I felt, how lonely I felt, how absolutely distressed I felt. And I was frustrated because I had no tools, I had no way to save or fix the situation. I was studying everything I could about relationship therapy, and there was just nothing that worked because we were just so vastly different places, and the gap had just grown so big. So I started pouring myself into work, which is another way of sabotaging a relationship. Like, I just found other avenues, what you could call proxies of self-sabotage, where I would just, externalize, okay, this is what is wrong, so now I'm gonna start focusing on staying at work until like 10 o'clock, and then I'll come home, I'll go to bed, and we don't talk, and that's it. And then we wake up, and the next day we just continue the same cycle, right? So my question for bringing this up today and having this whole conversation of are you sabotaging your own success is, I want you to consider right now, where in your life, let's use an example, right? We're in 2022. I guarantee you there's a lot of you watching here who have a desire to change how they look in terms of their health and their physical appearance, right? So let's use that as an example. Where in your life right now are you sabotaging your health, your progress in terms of losing weight, or getting in shape, or hiring a personal trainer, or hiring somebody to do your nutrition for you, or whatever it is in terms of your physicality? Because we all do this. We all have this internal voice, this internal dialogue that is trying to take our focus away from what is actually important and pull us into a different direction. And that's why it's so important to have somebody who can see your blind spots. It's so important to have people around you that can call you out and say, hey, you said you wanted this, but your actions are dictating something different. This is why it's so important to have a coach, a mentor, or be part of a mastermind or something bigger, right? Where you can come in and you can unload and be who you are with all of your light and your darkness and everything, but you can also be called out when you do not commit or you don't take action on what you said you were going to do. So in your health, where are you right now not doing what you said you were committed to doing? Where are you sabotaging your own success? Let's look at relationship, for instance. You might be, recently divorced, or you have, been divorced for a while and you're starting to date, or whatever it might be in that category. And you're sabotaging yourself in terms of, well, every time I meet a new woman, then, she might remind you of your ex-wife, or you don't feel confident. You don't really know how to approach a woman. You feel you're not worthy, you feel inadequate, whatever it might be. And so you talk yourself out of always going on a date or connecting with a woman in a new way. You put barriers up, you put, you have these walls up that protect you from falling in love and protect you from not being hurt again. Because you once were hurt, so now you have this fear that if I fall in love again, I'm gonna get hurt. And so you find ways to self-sabotage. Or is it in your business in terms of not being where you want to be in your business? You have this vision about you should be further along, and every time you reach a milestone, or every time in your business where somebody else gets the promotion and you basically every single time you feel left out, right? And so you start self-sabotaging by, instead of putting time and effort into the business and into improving yourself in the business, you start spending less and less time in the business and spend more and more time on doing things that are not important. So I want you to reflect on this and comment below, where are some of the areas that you're aware right now where you have the tendency to self-sabotage? For me, it was in relationship, 100%. Personal love relationship, like my marriage, I was a master of sabotaging. When it came to business, I was also a master at self-sabotage. Like anything that came around money and the conversation around money, I was great at self-sabotage, right? And it takes a lot of time to actually work through that. But the first step is having the awareness. So to end off this whole conversation, my son did end up having his food, right? However, it took him a while to understand that every time he puts his hand up and he cannot eat because he himself, not my girlfriend, not me, but he is the sole reason why he's not getting food. He is the reason why the supply is cut off, right? He is the reason. Nobody else, nobody's fault. He, because he's young, he doesn't know better, he does that, right? As he gets older, he'll probably figure out that it's not the smartest thing. So, the question for you today is, where in your life right now do you know that you're sabotaging yourself? And where do you find yourself struggling to move to the next area? That could be in your health, it could be in your relationship, it could be in business, it could be in your spirituality. Comment below and let me see how I can support you in moving forward. And by the way, for any of the men who are watching this who are divorced or know somebody who is divorced, I have officially opened the doors to my Legacy Builder Mastermind, which is a 90-day mastermind for divorced men. The purpose of this is to create the biggest community, the biggest tribe of men who have gone through divorce or going through divorce, but are seeking a better way of doing life, relationship, business, and in like just loving themselves and becoming the man that they were meant to be. But at some point they've lost that. They've turned that off. So my intention for this is to build the best version of you as a man as we move into 2022. So if you're interested in that, you can comment below and I'll send you the link. If not, go to legacy-builders.me and you can find all the information there. There will be 10 spots available for each of these groups. I'm starting them out one by one. All of January, I have a very, very special rate on these. The price is going to go up from February moving forward. This is going to be probably some of the most intense 90 days of your life, but also the most transformative in terms of where you actually can see yourself in a year from now. So again, if you're interested, I would love to see you there. I would love to support you. I'm rooting for you. I want you to win in 2022. Go to legacy-builders.me and sign up today. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you tomorrow. Love and light your way.